All right, today mixing up another batch of mineral. Do this about every month and a half as I go through the mineral. The mineral mix that I use is this Premier One brand, Goat Trace Mineral Premix. They got a few different versions. One thing to note is if it says right on here, do not feed this to sheep. It is toxic levels of copper for sheep. Instructions for mixing here are on the back. It does offer, I'm not going to read them to you. It does offer a couple of optional things for calcium and phosphorus. We do add that in. That's sodium, or calcium carbonate, excuse me. Calcium carbonate and dical, or you can use monocal. And I called and talked to them. They said, yeah, monocal is fine, and sometimes it's easier to find. You're not going to find those two things at like Tractor Supply or anything like that. You're going to need to go to your local feed co-op or specialty feed store to get those. The other thing that we do, the other thing that you mix into it, of course, is just feed. It's called feed mixing salt or stock salt. It's just white salt with some trace minerals in it. It's used as a base for this or to mix in with feed and stuff. This is pretty important because, again, I don't feed any concentrated pre-made goat feed stuffs or anything like that to them. They just get hay and pasture, and that's all they ever see. So getting their mineral uptake through their salt mix is very important to me. I do monitor it very closely for uptake. One of the things that it's covered on the instructions here is the A, D, and E. This time of year, when there's no fresh forage, vitamins A, D, and E, and selenium, they can get deficient in that. So we mix this in. I don't do it in the big batch because this stuff degrades when it comes in contact with salt. So we do these sub batches of 10 pounds, which look like this. Take 10 pounds out of that and put 10 pounds in here and add roughly a third of this. I measure it, I weigh things with the same scale I used to weigh kids with. Roughly a third of this into that 10 pounds, and every 10 pounds do that. The other thing that I mix in here is, you kind of see the yellow stuff in there, is soybean meal. And it mentions that in the instructions too. If they're not uptaking enough, you can add in soybean meal. And I do the same thing. I do up to 20% soybean meal. Right now they're at 10%. In certain times of the year, they'll have no soybean meal. It's just trying to make sure they have a consistent uptake. That soybean meal, just like the salt, is a driver and helps encourage them to uptake the appropriate amount that you want them to uptake. From here, I've got this little scoop, which I just know from, experience, from, weighing it previously. This is right about 1 pound if you level that off. And we put it in the mineral feeders, which I'll cover those in a separate video, but there's one of the mineral feeders there. And this is the same mineral mix I use year round. The only difference, again, is the different levels of soybean meal, and that is based on, do I want them to uptake faster than they currently are? I increase soybean meal. If they're uptaking too much, I'll decrease it. And then, of course, the AD&E premix is only fed, when they don't have fresh green forage available, so through the winter, basically. But yeah, that's the gist of it. Use the cement mixer to mix it up. Makes life easier. You don't need that, but you do want to make sure it's thoroughly mixed because you're putting this small bag of stuff here into like 70 pounds of other stuff, and you want to make sure it's thoroughly mixed, so it's not just all those nutrients aren't stuck in one spot in your mineral mix and not getting distributed properly throughout the use of the mix in its entirety. Yeah, hopefully you found that interesting. I am not sponsored by Premier One or anything like that. I'm not affiliated with them. I do think pretty highly of most of the products that they sell and make, and I think they're a good company to work with. So, again, there's Goat Trace Mineral Premix, Premier One. You can Google it. Have fun.